This episode is an important episode where we deal with mental health. Hey, what's going on? Welcome back to the show. My name is Michael Sahno, and this used to be Michael Sahno Has a Podcast, but we're doing kind of a revamp. It's going to be called now the Sea and Land Fitness Podcast. I don't know how I'm going to organize all the videos, but whatever, we'll figure it out. Okay, so for this episode, we have an interview. We're going to be talking about mental health. We're going to be talking about mental health and student athletes with, it is my pleasure to introduce University of Florida swimmer Cecilia Porter. Cecilia, hey, what's going on? How are you?
Hi, I'm doing very well. Thank you for the very enthusiastic intro.
You like that?
It was great. Very
well,
interesting.
all right. So your name, Cecilia, you're somebody, people, all right, we have to go over this. This has to be brought up. It is not just Cecilia that you're referred to, correct?
Correct. Growing up, so growing up in high school, I was Cecilia, that's my real name. And once I got to college, or it was during quarantine, so my senior year of high school, we were on a COVID quarantine, like Zoom call with some of the girls on the Florida team. And they asked me, we were doing like a little workout, and they asked me, they were like, so is it Cece or Cecilia? And I was like, honestly, I've heard both, so whatever you want. And from then on, it was like, okay, you're Cece. So now if I don't introduce myself as Cece around, nobody knows who I am.
Nobody has any idea who you are. Yeah. You got a nickname whether you like it or not. That's sort of like when I was growing up, but your nicknames are a lot nicer than the nicknames we got in my neighborhood. So anyways, all right. So, just briefly, who are you and where are you from?
Yeah. So I'm a student athlete at the University of Florida. I am a junior now, and
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I'm originally from, Chattanooga, Tennessee. So I swam club swimming all throughout high school, middle school, high school, all of it, and then committed to UF my junior year. And here we are now. I'm now medically retired, and yeah.
So when did you get into sports? What was sporting like for you? Athleticism like for you growing up? Were you into like a ton of sports, or like I spoke to someone a couple months ago, and they had nothing to do with sports, and then became a Division I runner. So what was it like for you? Did you grow up in sport?
Yes. So I was very much so growing up an athlete, but only swimming. So I never really ventured off. I think that's the case with most swimmers, is when you do swimming, when you do swimming competitively, that's all you do. You don't really have time for anything else. But everybody else in my family, I'm one of 5, and all of my siblings above did swimming. So it was kind of like, okay, let's put them all in swimming. I actually got into swimming I fell in love with my sister's swimsuits, and I was so jealous. I really
Oh, that's awesome.
So I joined the summer league swim team for the swimsuits, and here we are. So I dabbled in a little bit of soccer, rec league. Didn't do too well, and that's about it.
No, that's okay. I mean, there's something about swimming. So I'm doing this thing this month to try to get rid of some of this right here, where I'm doing 5 days a week, a half mile. So Monday through Friday, I'm doing a half mile in the pool. And there's something about swimming that's different than anything else, in that I don't know if it's being within the medium of water and that zone that you can really isolate yourself with the sport. It's not, and when I say isolate, I don't mean like in a negative way. I mean, you can separate from everything and just be in the water.
Right. Yeah, no, for
So,
sure. I fully resonate with that. Like it has its pros and cons,
mhm,
to fully being in like that isolated mindset and be
mhm.
completely away from everything else. It's like an escape, but at the same time you're staring at a black line for multiple hours of the
Yeah. Oh
day.
my gosh, yeah.
So
And that little cross at the end that, oh, I got to turn around. You're like a hamster on a wheel in water, so to speak. So I get you there. So why did you not, and I know everyone asks you this, why are you not a Vol? And how did you wind up in Florida?
you're correct on that. I do get that a lot. So I'm not a vol. I University of Tennessee was up there on my when I was recruiting, and it got down to sort of UTK, which Tennessee. Back in Tennessee, we call
Hmm.
it UTK. Apparently, nobody knows that. Um, yeah, but I got down to Tennessee. I was interested in the Naval Academy as well as
Whoa,
UF. Yeah,
that's
so
awesome.
so my eldest brother, he was a swimmer on the team at the Naval Academy, and then my older sister, also went to the Naval Academy. She wasn't a swimmer, but so then I fell in love. We'd go up there all the time on family trips. We go to all the parents' weekends and everything, and that's a lot of what my family was a part of. It's big in my family, so I saw that and I really wanted to be a part of it. And great coaching staff. Like that coaching staff is fantastic. They're really great people, but then I came to realize that aside from my siblings, I'm very much so not built for the military. So
Well, you have a brother. You have a couple of brothers, right? Who are in the
yes,
military?
I have three brothers and one sister.
That's awesome. That is an insane household, though, growing up in, I'm sure, right? Everyone going in all different directions. But is it also a lot of pressure?
Yeah, I mean, naturally, like being on the lower end, I feel like, having older siblings and we're kind of further apart in age. It gets kind of further and further apart. It's 2 years from first to second, then 2 years, then I think there's 3 years between me and my older siblings. And it's confusing, but, it's also motivating, seeing their success and being able to carry that on and use that in my own life. So, I mean, I don't really think that was a big pressure on me just because we're all so uniquely different. And
Okay.
so it worked out really well.
So at some point in your career, you started to notice issues, mental health issues. You started to accumulate stress, I guess is a great way to put it. Now these issues, did they first manifest as performance issues? Or did you recognize them distinctly as being a part of mental health? We are just jumping right into this. Can you tell?
I love it. I love it. Yeah, so that's a great question. And, they definitely manifested originally just as personal issues growing up. This began as early as like elementary school. And, everybody
Okay.
has,
Wow.
their baggage, their issues that they grow up with. And if it's not dealt with, it just manifests into these bigger issues. It delves into every part of your life. Trauma is trauma, and pressure is a part of the package with swimming and with any competitive sport. So if you don't deal with those issues head on, then the higher the competition, the more exhaustive and difficult it is to tackle. And that's what happened with me. Is I had no idea I had issues to begin with. I didn't know there were any issues.
That's awesome. That is the best thing I've ever. I had no idea I had issues. I had no idea the things that I did were weird. That is great. That is awesome to hear. Keep going. I totally interrupted you. I apologize.
No, I love to hear it, but it's the truth. Like you really don't know what you're dealing with until the worst happens. And then, I, kept on, it was this crescendo in my life over time, and more time as older as I got, the more competitive swimming became. And not alone swimming, but just life in general, school, and, advancing further in my life, the higher the stakes. And, I myself am bipolar. And so with that,
congratulations. What do you say to that? You know what I mean? What do you say? I'm bipolar. Congratulations. Because people don't want pity. People don't want them to feel bad for themselves. So that's always been my go-to. If somebody says, and I don't mean it congratulations in a sarcastic way. I mean it sincerely. Congratulations. You've come to a moment where you figured out what's up is the best way to put it. You know what I mean? So when did you find out that you were bipolar? Did you find out before or after you had issues?
Well, I mean,
you would find out you had issues, but I mean, in terms of being a student athlete.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we all have issues. I've had issues my whole life, but when bigger problems started happening, I'd start to have mental breakdowns, and in college, and this became known when I was at my absolute worst, and I was hospitalized about a year and a half ago, in fall of 2021, and I had a severe mental health crisis, and I went back home I'm currently actually at home for a little bit, in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and, went through all, the psychiatric care, and I had fantastic care. And we came to the conclusion, it started out as a diagnosis as major depressive disorder, because I had just been, all that was reported was like these periods of just absolute depression. And then, after being treated with that, being treated for that medically, we came to find out that I had manic episodes, and that is much more of a bipolar symptom. So then, in reflection on my whole life, it became much more apparent, and I'm so happy that I know that, and there's such a stigma around these different disorders, and you have a label, but at the end of the day, it's so helpful knowing, because now I have the fantastic care on my side, and I have a wonderful therapist that I work with weekly, and she helps me through it, and I can function perfectly normal, and I'm so grateful for the knowledge that I've gained about it.
Well, that's the one thing that I don't like within the diagnosis, is that there's a term that's used, functional bipolar. And I think that's such a misnomer, because there are people who okay. So one of the things, and I apologize for interrupting your story, but this is an important thing that I think the viewers need to know. So part of my research deals with goal setting. And in goal setting, you have to have this thing called emotional awareness. And emotional awareness can be kind of scary. It can be terrifying, because a lot of times we have no idea why we fear. We have no idea why we want. We have no idea why we're engaged in behaviors. And there's a segment of the population that says, I just don't want to know, because I don't like that behavior, and I don't want to know what makes me do that behavior. I'd rather just stop the behavior. But what they don't understand is that the only way to stop the behavior is understanding the behavior, understanding the emotion that lies underneath. And I'm a disabled veteran, so I had some issues that I was dealing with, and I really wanted to know what the hell was going on. Once I found out what was going on, it became a lot easier to deal with the anxiety attacks when they arrived, because I knew why they arrived. I may not have known exactly what the core of that specific anxiety attack was, but I knew what it was tied to. In the same way with your bipolar, it's not that you're functional, you've always been functional. You were a collegiate Division I swimmer. You were bipolar when you were a collegiate Division I active swimmer. Just because you have a diagnosis doesn't mean that, you know, you're functional now. And do you understand kind of what I'm getting at?
No, you're totally right.
So pat yourself on the back because you figured out some type of coping mechanism at the time that was able to get you through it. The only thing was, it wasn't as strong of a coping mechanism as you needed. So you went and you got help and you found out, you found more coping mechanisms. And I just want you to know, I'm so incredibly proud of you for doing that. That's so badass.
Thank you.
The vast majority of the public doesn't do that. So getting back to your story, getting back to your mental health journey. So you have this moment where you're getting help. It's the beginning of getting help. This is a traumatic moment. Most people don't realize how traumatic it is to actually go and get help for mental health issues, because it's at that point that you have to recognize that you actually have what we all like to call a problem, right? So how did they manifest to the point that you went and got help? What I'm asking is, what was happening in your life that got so out of control that you needed to ask for help?
Yeah, so...
Are you comfortable with that? And if you're not comfortable with that, we can move on to another question. I totally understand that might be like ripping a Band-Aid off.
No, this is great. Fortunately, like I'm fully comfortable now with sharing everything, and transparency is everything to me. And if this can help somebody else who's experiencing something similar, then more power to it. And so to answer your question, so again, like I said, like things just kept tumbling into this bigger issue. And so it was this big crescendo. So, you know, when something doesn't go taken care of, like trauma, childhood trauma, it's never going to go away. And, you know, it doesn't have anything to do with anyone else. These were my internal struggles and my emotional instability and my inability to process things, you know, I guess normally, you know, in a healthy way. And swimming was the coping mechanism that I used. And, you know, from a young age, like without the, you know, influenced by my environment, wasn't anyone's fault but mine. I didn't see much value in my life. It was really hard for me to understand my place in the world, and which is a really, really scary thing to think about. And, you know, it never really went away. And I didn't even, that's what I'm talking about when I say I didn't know about it at the time. I didn't realize the impact that had on me and what that was going to do for me in the future. I thought those were just like, oh, like little thoughts or whatever. Like, oh, it'll just, you know, these are temporary thoughts or something. Like, and I used swimming as a coping mechanism for, you know, proving my worth. I put all my worth in swimming, and I actually hated swimming up until high school. Yeah, I was like, I just got to keep doing it because I have to do a sport, and you know, mom says I need to keep busy with something after school. So you know, I did swimming, and you know, I was a pain in the butt. My coach, I almost got kicked. Oh, I was threatened to get kicked out of practices in middle school. That did happen. I was a little rebel. But, you know, in high school, so the turning point, I started to get good. And once I, you know, proved that I was, you know, competitive with my times, I started to love that. And I was like, okay, there's something. There's a concrete evidence that I am worthy and that I have value because it's physically right in front of me. Like, I can do this. So I'm going to put all my focus, all of my attention and value in this. And that's essentially what tumbled into what became the worst moment of my life.
So
So
this identity that you had established through swimming, this personal internal identity that you established through swimming, once you started not getting good times, once you started getting criticism from your coach, how did that affect you?
yeah, so that was really hard. When you put all of your eggs in one basket,
Hmm.
it's not healthy, and um, you know it. It was really difficult in high school. So in high school, I had the privilege to be with a really talented coach. He was very talented and knew the structure of swimming, like the back of his hand. He knew everything about swimming. And I loved that because I was obsessed with swimming. I mean, naturally, like that's all I thought about day and night. I'd watch all the YouTube videos. And so when things weren't going well or I'd plateau, I'd freak out.
Oh my
I
gosh.
it was like I thought it was the end of the world, like, but this was in high school again, so it's not like I was on scholarship, I was away from home, like things were still, I was still under the in the house in the same house, as my parents and everything.
There was nothing riding on it. You weren't going to
Yeah.
lose your room at home if you didn't do well in swimming.
Right, right. And I wasn't
So,
on
okay.
necessarily a national stage. I was, just proving my potential. And it was really hard, especially because, I had an injury my senior year. So that was, a time where I had to overcome adversity. And, fall of my senior year, I had constantly been trying to come out of my shell because I'd been training really, really hard and really well. But my performances, I was horrible with the pressure to compete. It was so
Oh
difficult in
my
some weeks.
gosh.
I'd get all in my head because it was just really tough. And then
So during this whole time up through high school, what was your self-talk like, your internal self-talk? How were you treating yourself? Um, in terms of even on your good days, there are individuals whose self-talk is so negative that even when they excel, they're still hating themselves. What was your self-talk like? What were the things that you were telling yourself routinely?
yeah, I mean, I was telling myself, like trying to tell myself positive things. Again, I was very insecure. I've struggled with body dysmorphia, and
Okay.
in the swimming world, athletes tend to be really lean. And I look around, in high school and college, the fastest, the fastest swimmers around me were the leanest, not an ounce of fat or anything. And that was really difficult to see, to, try to be the fastest I can when I don't look the same as the fastest swimmers. So there was a lot of negative self-talk that happened, but again, it wasn't
Can you
necessarily the self.
elaborate on that so that people who are listening can understand what that sounds like? What are the actual things that you would have told yourself that you can imagine others are telling themselves now who aren't aware that they're negatively self-talking?
I would tell myself that I'm not working hard enough and that the way I physically look is a reflection of how hard I work. So for example, I went on the keto diet following my shoulder arthroscopy surgery.
I'm not a fan of the keto diet, just
It's
so we
well
can get that out.
for a swimmer, it's a bit extreme because I
You
didn't
need the
realize
carbs.
I had no idea what I was doing. I was, this was after a surgery, and I had a 6-month recovery. I tore my labrum, and I was like,
Oh
okay,
my
in a matter
gosh.
of months, I'm going to be back, or I'm going to be down in Florida, and I'm going to really have to prove myself because I'm going to be swimming with the big dogs. And so I was like, okay, I really want to get in shape. Like, I felt so sluggish after surgery, and I just wanted to whip back into shape. So as I'm like starting training again, getting back in the water, I did the keto diet for like 60 days or something. And there's this like keto high that happens where, it's kind of like this manic. mode.
Mm-hmm.
And, I thought I was doing great and everything. I didn't realize really how low on nutrients I was. And I had no business doing that. While at the time I thought it was great, I had people around me come up to me and tell me, you look really great. You look really good in the water. And right now, you look like you're in really good shape. And that right there is, I think, what a lot of girls
Well,
do.
that's self-reinforcing.
Yeah, yeah. It's that reinforcement that, okay, what I'm doing right now is right on par. Like, I am doing just fine. Like, let's just keep on going and do even better. And that was really detrimental, because then it's that external validation that you seek. And so that was
Did
something
you
that,
ever have staff, coaching staff, or anyone within your programs say anything on either side? I've run into people who have said that there are coaches who have told them that they might want to lose a little bit of weight. But then that there are also coaches who have told them, are you okay? I've seen what you're eating and you're not eating what you need to be eating. So on both sides, have you had any negative from the people who are supposed to be supporting you, as well as positive from the people who are supposed to be supporting you during this time before you realized the situation that you were in?
yeah, well, I got both. Sort of when I was younger, I experienced a lot of, negative comments about my body and maybe what I need to eat. And when you're younger and you're hearing comments like that really plants a deep seed. And so I have experienced that. I mean, this is a cardio sport. So, I mean, the whole, idea is like, okay, the leaner, the better, the skinnier or whatever. And that's completely false. And, everyone's uniquely different. I'm not somebody that was born with a super high metabolism and, super lean. And as a swimmer, breaststrokers typically aren't that built. Every stroke kind of has a certain build or something.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can't compare. And so it was difficult to kind of accept the way I was. And sort of in college, actually, I mean, I experienced more of the other side. And I think that was sort of a result of the way I'd been treating myself and my body. It became visible that maybe, I had gotten comments of like, okay, just don't change anything, like when it would get close to championships, I would kind of, change my diet, being like, oh, I got to be in tip top shape, as if I, wasn't already. And, that became a little bit of a concern. It wasn't the most tremendous, concern at the time, but it was still, something that I didn't, I wasn't able to handle well.
These external environmental and social inputs.
Yeah.
You were having trouble dealing with them. Okay. So describe to me, if you're okay with it, when everything came to a head. What happened?
So about a year and a half ago was when I was hospitalized back home in Tennessee. And leading up to that, I had sort of this mental health crisis the spring preceding this hospitalization, and didn't seek any psychiatric help. And I was just like, oh, I'll be fine. I was I was still in this state of just seeking that external validation. So I was like, I just got to prove to my coaches, like, no, like I can't be getting in trouble for, any issues. I got to get back in the water, I got to get in shape. Like and I went through this whole clearing process, to get back in the water, make sure I was healthy. Of course, and when you're unwell and you don't know, expressing how you feel to other people and, telling your coaches, telling people, oh yeah, I feel great. it's so misleading. And so then they don't know how to take care of the situation. Anyway, fast forward to the
Well, they
fall.
can only deal with what they know. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's only what you tell them. And if it's not, is the problem with not the problem, but the difficulty with mental health is that it's not a physical wound that you can
Hmm.
see. So that makes it extremely hard to be able to interpret the issue and for people to see it coming. I think that's the scariest part, is that nobody knows what's going to happen until it happens. Um, and
But what was it exactly that got you out of the pool
mhm,
and into a facility?
right.
What was that moment?
So during that time, in spring of 2021, my end of my sophomore year,
Hmm.
I went through psychosis. I had sort of, I had these external stresses. I don't really want to get into the specifics.
No, that's okay.
Yeah,
That's okay.
yeah,
I
but
just want to go
essentially,
through
like
the event
I reached a
so
state
that
where,
those who know, so those who are going through the event know that, oh crap, I need to see help. You
yeah,
know?
yeah. So, well, basically, I was in a position where I felt very vulnerable, very, very
Hmm.
lonely. And so my mind went into psychosis. I had no sense of reality, basically. I felt completely detached, and, visibly everything was foggy. I was kind of dizzy. Nothing made any sense. And then I went home, but didn't seek any psychiatric help. So then came back to swim, good to go, everything's good. Fast forward to fall of 2021. My no, yeah, that was the start of my sophomore year. Sorry,
Hmm.
end of my freshman year into the start of my sophomore year, and then in the start of my sophomore year, again we had a new coaching staff at UF. They merged the team, so an exciting new start, and that aside from anyone else, internally I felt this duty to prove myself. Got this big established coaching staff coming on to take coming to take on the women's team, and I'm like, okay, I really got to prove myself. And after what happened in the spring, like, this can't happen again. Like, mentally I was just trying to shove it away. And again, I had, from relationships to in just all these situations, I had multiple, instances that I felt really, really, really low. And it all culminated into this sort of downfall towards the end of September. We had the first meet of the season, and I was like, okay, like I was like pumped about my training. And I had actually started loving swimming for the first time since high school, because I was swimming my butt off in practices. The coaches were very happy with the results. So again, I did not care at all about about what I felt about myself. I was like, I care what the coaches think about me. That's all I care about. Like, I want to prove to other people. And I could never prove it to myself. And then first meet of the season against FAU, I swam. I felt horrible. Leading up to that week, I had a very difficult time dealing with stresses and pressure.
Hmm.
There was a lot going on. And, after swimming that meet, came home, made some bad decisions one weekend. And, it resulted, I woke up one morning and fully, completely checked out. No clue where I
Wow.
was. I was in a state where I had no idea that I was on Earth. I truly thought I was on another planet. And that feeling was the most hurtful
Terrifying.
thing on Earth. It was the worst pain I've ever felt in my life, because it was much more than any physical pain I've ever experienced. And, and especially because I had no idea what it was at the time. I was like, what is going on? I truly,
Jeez.
completely separated from everything. And so that led to, could not communicate with anyone, fully isolated myself. extreme depression, you know, completely just leaving myself alone, just trying to tune everything out. Anything, any news, any people talking to me, anything that came at me was, you know, scary. It was terrifying. It didn't make any sense to me. And then as a result of not, you know, talking to anyone, nobody knows what to do with that. So, you know, I was taken home by my family. Super grateful for their help during that time. And, you know, I reached my absolute.
How did they find out? How did
I was not responding to anyone. Like, there were texts, calls, because I was like hibernating in my bedroom.
Okay.
Because
no,
of,
I get it.
you know, my state. So then obviously people were trying to contact me, you know, where are you? All this stuff.
Jeez.
And so my mom kind of came and rescued me and took me home, and then that was, you know, when I came home, then I was like, why am I at home? What is going on? And I was like, this isn't real. And I was fully like detached, like, and you know, I had sort of suicidal ideation at that point, and it became apparent that it was time to take me to the ER. And then I was hospitalized and stayed as an inpatient in a psych ward for about a week, and then was discharged and met some of the best friends ever, and some of the coolest people you'd never expect in a very scary place. And in a way, it kind of feels like home. And then, you know, did some outpatient treatment for about 30 days. And then came back to campus in the spring of 2022. And
how was that?
Realized that after all this, like, sort of therapy and going over, you know, the pressures and trauma in my life, it became apparent that swimming was an unhealthy relationship.
Okay. No, that's and it's awesome that you were able to come to that conclusion, and that it didn't sit as something, a hill you never climbed. You know what I mean?
Right.
So the instrumental people were your family in ensuring that you got help. Were there any people on campus that you know made sure that you were taken care of?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, my roommates, I had 3 roommates at the time, and they were there. I mean, because I was hibernating in my bedroom at the time. So they were physically there, like, seeing it all. And again, with something like psychosis, nobody knows what it is unless you like verbalize it. And I was very protective of my intelligence following the incident in the spring. So I was like, I don't want to sound like an idiot. Like, I
don't want to sound crazy.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. I was like, I can't sound crazy. I was like, nope, this sounds so wild. I can't say that my brain is foggy and nothing makes sense. Like, what's that going to mean? You know, but, so in that sense, like, people down in Gainesville, I mean, like, they were only taking what I gave to them. And, you know, with something like mental health, nobody can really see it coming. So it's really hard to approach that situation. And, you know, going through psychosis is very rare. Not many people experience it, which is, I think, again, another reason why it was so hard for people to attend to the issue. And my family, at the end of the day, they've seen me since I was little. And after what happened in the spring, like, I think my mom just had a hunch, and you know, and that was that.
So what are you doing now? What's become basically your mental health maintenance plan? You're back in school. Are you back? You're not back on campus?
Oh, so I'm on spring break. So,
wait a minute. I was on spring break too. It's over now, I thought.
Yeah, I had some medical appointments. So,
I need medical appointments, man. That way I can extend my spring break. I'm totally kidding. I'm messing with you.
Yeah. No, it is.
So you're on spring break?
What?
You're on spring break.
Well, I just ended it technically, but I'm at home right now.
I'm not trying to bust you. Don't worry. You're not
Yeah.
going to get in trouble with your professors.
Let's
So you're
take
back on
UFD.
campus now. Yeah, right. You're back on campus now.
Right.
So what's your mental health maintenance plan, and how were you able to implement it to feel comfortable to come back to campus after all this happened?
Yeah. Well, luckily, I learned a lot back home. I learned a lot through my group therapy sessions and working with clinicians and doctors, and learned a lot about what it was. The first step was just knowing what I have, and I have bipolar. I am not bipolar, I guess, and how to navigate these issues, these things. And so, identifying, okay, my entire identity leading up to this point was being an athlete, being a swimmer. That's all I knew. So breaking off of that was, tremendous to how I saw myself. And so I had to learn how to do new things. And I started loving sewing. I make clothes. I have a clothing brand.
What? Holy cow.
Yeah. But so, I just, broadened my interests and really tried to tune out the swimming world. That was something that I really needed to do at the time because it was such like a emotional relationship at the time.
Well, it was more like, I would say it's more like an emotional weight that was weighting you down in the water, so to speak.
Yeah, for sure. And so just really tried to distance myself at the start, in that spring semester of 2022, coming back to campus. And even now it's like I'm very comfortable, being around the swimming community, letting that be a part of my life, because my identity isn't completely swimming anymore. It's just not my identity anymore. So it's, I love talking to the swimmers on the team. There's some awesome people, and and so I have my own hobbies, my own maintenance. I like going on walks. I journal a lot. That's a great way to process everything. If I am stressed before I sleep, I don't let myself go to sleep before I write everything down. And that really helps. And then also just, therapy sessions. It's amazing.
That's awesome. And you're getting help on campus. You have a therapist, either through the school or through someone outside of the school, right?
Right.
And how does that work? How do you balance that and then come home? Do you see someone from home and from campus, or do you Zoom when you're in different places?
Yeah, that's the tricky part is
Okay.
my on sort of the more medical side, I still meet with people at home because my healthcare provider's at home because it's like they've seen me from, the worst time to up to now. So just for the sake of, I want to make sure my medications aren't being tampered with or anything. So,
well, yeah, you want to have some type of continuity of care and all of that.
Yeah, just make sure that everything's streamlined. And so that's why I'm here right now. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. And I really love the care I'm getting, so I'm okay with it.
And I wasn't trying to bust you on being at home, so don't bring that to me. So who is Cecilia Porter now? Who is the Cecilia Porter that lives in 2023 and is a junior? Can you tell us?
Yeah.
And if you don't know, that's okay. If that's still forming itself, that's okay too.
Yeah. I guess I'm learning to be comfortable with still trying to figure myself out. I am a junior in college, so I'm just trying to get used to the fact that I'm not going to be completely successful right now with what I want to do with the rest of my life. It's all trial and error. So
That's awesome. You figured that out finally.
Yeah.
Oh, the trial and error is like my entire life. Oh, that doesn't work. All right, let's see what works now.
Yeah.
Go on. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm, studying psychology, and so I love working with the volunteer program with the student athlete group. So that's really exciting. Get to work with kids a lot. And I have a great community down here at UF, and I have my clothing brand, and yeah. So those are some things that are going on right now.
That's good. That's excellent. That's awesome to hear. Cecilia, it was such an honor to talk to you, and it was such an honor to sit with you and be able to hear candidly everything that you've gone through. I appreciate it, and I know that your words and your stories are going to help someone else, and that's why I brought you here. This is great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was really nice.
Don't worry about it. I'm glad we got it figured out, and I'm glad you were patient. Just so everyone knows, I was late to the interview. Thank you so much. All right, that's the show. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. And this is the Sea and Land Fitness podcast brought to you by Sea and Land Fitness. And we will see you next time. All right, thanks, guys.